So Kal Kadosh, Erev Tov. First of all, this is going to be shiur number 5, right? In today we're going to speak about the positive atmosphere of a healthy Jewish home, right? Positivity. So that's going to be what we're going to speak about tonight. So we wanted to thank our dear Steve and Ms. Halimi for the wonderful table b'lainera, and that they should always have their house open for many, many simachot. I remember every simchat Torah is always going to be a continuation. B'ezrat Hashem, one simchat to another. B'ezrat Hashem, should be refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh u'guf, to Atinok Yitzchak ben Esther Sarah, and to Miriam bat Michal Alia, and to Eliyahu ben Nevi Metit Esther, Shimon ben Tamar, Tamar bat Rachel, B'yos. Okay, שיהיה רפואה שלמה to all, בעזרת השם. ואליהו? אמרני, אליהו חי בן נביא בן תתעשר, כן. Okay, בעזרת השם, fine. So we're going to start as follows. Something very, very interesting, right? Which, it starts like this. There's a special toy for kids that I'm sure you've probably seen. Nowadays with the scooters, I think it's probably outdated, right? But once upon a time, it's almost like a skateboard, but a little bit different, which is basically that you have a piece of metal and you have 2 crossbars, right, over here to stand. Now, when I want to move, how am I supposed to move? So I start moving forward a little bit this way and then a little bit that way. It's almost like skating, right? Snake. What is it called? Snake. Like snake, right? It's called the ripstick. That's what it's called in English, which basically you're going the motion. Now, the question is, right, how does it work? So if we actually pay attention, the majority of things in life actually work that way. When you walk, you don't walk forward. You need one leg forward, let's say on the right, and then the left, and you continue going. You do not walk like that. You're not a duck that you just, jump forward. It's always 1, 1, 1, 1. And that's the way that you're making that motion in order to move forward. Now, the same thing is with the battery or anything electric. What do you have? You've got the different sides, whether it's going to be the positives and the negatives, and they come in to move that. Now, why is it so important to know that? Because the secret to the creation, Sod HaBriah, what we call the secret to creation, is dependent upon that. Hashem created the world that it's always going to go step by step. What does that mean? That you have to move always in a forward direction, but you're going step by step and you're moving around. That's the way it is. Whether it's the way that we walk, whether it's the way that you're playing on this ripstick, whether it's the way that on everything that you're moving, you're always going a little bit forward, and the same thing in a car. You want to park and you're doing parallel parking. You continue a little bit back, you continue going a little bit, right to the left, to the right, you continue going. Okay, fine. Now, what does that mean exactly? Growth, it requires tension, which means that the way that we're going to grow, right, is only in such a fashion where you're actually moving along. So a child, for example, when we take a little tiny baby that they're starting to walk, do you realize how many times they try until they succeed? It's something incredible. What happens is there was once a football player that he was with a little child, he wanted to see how many times. They did a study, and there was like thousands, tens of thousands of times that they actually come. They get up on their 2 feet, and they'll walk 1 step, right? And then they'll try, and then they fall. And again, they'll continue trying. Sometimes what happens is after they fall, they'll actually go back 2 days or 1 day. They won't do anything. But then they get up and they try again until they're going to succeed. Now, why is it like that? The reason why it's like that is because the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them was in such a fashion that they forget their failures. Meaning the child, he does not even recognize that he fell. So it could be even if he does fall and he'll start crying, but he forgets about it, and that's why he continues going. That's the only secret why he's able to walk. He's only able to walk only because he was able to do such a thing. Now, why is this important? Everything, if you realize in the Torah, many times is done with 3, the number 3. So for example, we have, what do we have number 3? Davot. Huh? יפה. Torah, Nevim, Ketuvim. If you talk about the Shlosha, you've got everything, right? You've got the Avot, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. You've got Kohen, Levi, Israel. You've got
Tunisian, Moroccan, Algerian.
Tunisian, Moroccan, Algerian. No, but then you have the okay, fine. But within the Moroccan, okay, fine. What else do you have? You've got a lot of them. Huh? Al Shosha Dvarim Ha'olam Omed. You've got the world is standing on 3 things: Torah, Gemilut, Chasadim, and Avodah.
Le Père, le Fils et le Saint-Esprit.
Which one? Right, in the Tefillah, the Shalosh Tefillot every single day. Right, you have Moshe, Aaron, Miriam. right? You've got, there's so many things, which is the number 3. It's actually incredible, right? You'll have the nefesh, ruach, neshama. You have all these things, which is 3. If you pay attention, the majority of Pirkei Avot is almost 3. They were saying 3 things each things, right? Whether it's going to be Shoshat Dvarim at the beginning, 3 things afterwards. There's a lot of the number 3. When you take the number 3 in Hebrew, what is it comprised of? How do you write shalosh in Hebrew? Shin, Lamed, Shin. So there's actually 2 letters, correct? It's 3 letters because Shin, Lamed, Shin, but there's 2 letters. There's the Shin and the Lamed. Do you realize that the Shin is basically made up of 3 heads? 1 head direction to the right, 1 to the left, and 1 in the center, right, going straight down to the shorish, to the, whether it's Sfaradi or Ashkenazi, whatever way you're building the Shin, it's going to be like that. The same thing is with the Lamed. Do you pay attention? The Lamed, you've got 1 on the top, which is like a Vav on the top, 1 on the bottom, right? You got one. How do you call it? Like one stick on the top, 1 stick on the bottom, and then 1 horizontal connecting both of them together. The entire world is connected in such a fashion, meaning that the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world was always that there's going to be a connection, that you have a choice of choosing to the right, choosing to the left, but then you're the middle person, that you have the choice of what to choose. And that's what you have to do. So when we're talking about nefesh, ruach, and neshama, for example, right? Whenever we're talking about that, we pay attention that the neshama is all the way on the top. The nefesh is where we are, right? That's where we are down here below. The ruach, right, which is the spirit, the nefesh is the soul, the neshama is the soul, the nefesh is the soul down here in the body. And then what happens is the ruach connects the 2 together, right? Now, why is it like this? The way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the entire world is through that. So for example, we get married and we have a child. Who's the child like? The father or the mother? So it depends, right? If he's handsome, so you're going to say, or if they're smart, or it's always that, it always goes after you, no? If you're smart, so you're going to say it's you. If it's then it's always the other one, no? That's what you usually say. But really, be'emet, if you actually pay attention, right, it's made out of both, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu purposely made it in such a way that you have the father and the mother together, that they become basar echad, they become one flesh when they have a child. So for the child is actually a connection of the 2 of them together. And now you have a child coming through, that this child is coming, right, that he has elements of both the parents. And that's why everything that you have in this creation is made through these 3 things. You've got, whether it's going to be nefesh, ruach, and neshama, whether it's going to be always the number 3, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu always wanted that you have the choice, whether it's going to be on the right and the left, and you are the person that you're going to decide. You decide what to do. Okay, fine. If we're going to ask ourselves, what makes a happy home? Which one?
Mommy very.
Or you know what? Let's start the opposite, and then we'll go to the. We'll start with the negative, and then we'll go to the positive. Everybody agrees here that we want a healthy home for our children, correct? Meaning that the children should be healthy, mentally stable, everything. Correct? Everyone agrees? Okay. If I was going to tell you something, what destroys a healthy home? So what will you tell me? Dysfunction.
Parents arguing in front of the children.
Very good. Parents arguing. Anything else?
Not happy home, you say?
Yes. A not happy home.
Je connais pas moi ça.
If you go into a house, what would you come and say? Wow, I wanted to run away from there. Fighting, right? What's that? Chaos. Anything else?
It's not organized.
Like at 9 p.m. the kids are not showered, like they have their uniform.
No, okay, you're saying unorganization, screaming. Very good. So now like this. I'm going to ask you a question. Imagine right now, right, you guys go on a plane, and it's an open cockpit. Nowadays we don't have those things anymore, right? But ever since 9/11, obviously all that changed. But once upon a time, you would have an open cockpit. And imagine right now, you're starting to go up, and the plane is with a lot of turbulence, and you have the pilot and the co-pilot, they're arguing in the front of the plane. And all of a sudden, when they're arguing, right, and they're continuing, they're rising, and all of a sudden they start screaming at each other, they take off the seatbelts, and they start fighting. How do you feel in the back of that plane.
I'm gonna be so happy.
You're gonna be happy. How do you feel in the back of the plane? Yeah, you're gonna feel what's going on over here. Yeah, if they're up there fighting, what am I going to do? You should know every child feels that way when his parents fight in front of them. That's a powerful message. One more time, I'll repeat. Every child will feel the exact same way when the parents are fighting in front of them. That means they're right now on the plane and they see the cockpit is open and they see that the pilot and co-pilot are throwing punches at each other. Again, doesn't have to be physical punches because usually, the man he's it's not my team, he's gonna, punch or whatever it is, but whatever. But, at the end of the day, that's what's happening. So when there's going to be fighting between them, that's going to cause, whether it's going to be the chaos of this, everything, it's completely, it's out. Screaming, right? Obviously, if you want a happy home, you cannot have screaming all the time. Screaming is not a good thing, right? Now again, obviously, right, we have to learn how to say things calmly, how to speak very calmly, and how to not scream and not to raise our voice. Again, we are not talking about emergency situations. If you do remember, last week we did speak about emergency situations, that if you need something done now, you're not going to come and, you've got the, your 8-year-old is coming and beating up the baby. You're not going to come, please, can you, no. You pick him up, you get him out of there. You understand? You're not going to, certain times there are emergency situations, right? But it's better even there not even to talk. Just to pick him up, move him away, right? Why? Without getting into back and forth, as they say, right?
Your kids
But
only understand screaming.
so that's because they were programmed wrong. Meaning, right? You will realize that many times we brought this down. I think if you remember with Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that he was once had that a parent came and started screaming. So he went and he said, "You're not showing authority. You're just showing that he's not listening to you. He's listening to your screaming." Meaning he's already got a headache. He doesn't want to hear you screaming. So just just leave me alone. What happens? Many times that happens, by the way, in a store. A store, what do people do? They come to customer service. What do you do? Right? You come, and when they start screaming at you, what do you just say? Just take it and just leave. Why? It's not that you're right, but just, you know what? I just don't have the, you just like want it.
It usually doesn't start like that. But
No,
like the first
100%.
37 times is singing nicely.
So what
And
happens?
then time 38.
So what happens?
wait.
What did we learn?
But that's with everything.
What do we say?
No, they wait until you scream to realize that you say yes. Like if you speak like
So if you remember though, what we said is that the parents, right? Sorry, not the parents, the children purposely want to get their parents angry. And when they get them angry, they say, "We won." And that's actually happening, right? Yeah. What happens is they say they won. Why? Because I just went and I won. Why? I got him to jump up and down like a monkey. He acted like me, right? So what happens? What we have to learn is to become indifferent. Indifferent means we give the command, but we keep our posture. You're gonna have a king. Remember, you're the king in the house. If you come and you see a real king, nowadays it's very difficult to find a real king, but if you find the real king, right? You think they're gonna come and they're gonna start to. There's order, there's hierarchy, right? You're gonna come and you're gonna see whoever it is, Rabbi Yosef. He doesn't have to scream at you to do something. He comes and he says like this, and you freeze, right? Imagine right now, Baba Sali comes and he says stop, right? Stop pouring. You're gonna freeze. He doesn't need to scream. Why? Because there's a certain level of authority that they come and they give it over. You don't need to scream. And therefore the opposite, by us screaming, we are actually taking away from our authority. Because if you see anybody up there, he does not need to scream.
So how do you switch from that habit?
No, so you have to train yourself. We have to work on ourselves. And that's what we're going to be speaking about today. The majority of it has to be that we have to work on ourselves in order to give it over to them. Right? And that's not only on screaming, that's on everything. But that's today's shiur. 1 second, right? So now what happens? So therefore, for us, right, and this many times it could be that for the women more, right? Just because obviously they're more with the kids, not because of any other reason, right? But what happens is many times they'll scream. So what they have to be careful about is they have to realize they will not gain from screaming, right? They will gain more from all the compliments and everything that you want, more than the screaming. Whether it's going to be musa shmuzes, whether it's going to be that you're giving them on the head or you're telling them off or all those things. The majority of people will not react that way. There was a story with a girl that the mother went to give birth, And the father came and he was speaking to the daughter, and he comes and he says, but you don't remember when your mother gave birth at this age, right? This is what I went, and I sat you down and we started talking. She went and she said, the truth is I completely turned myself off. I didn't even know about it. But you should know, right? How do you call it? But if that's what you told me, it sounds very, very good. What does that mean? The child turns himself off, right? Somebody once told me that there was a famous, cartoons. I don't remember what it was. It was a famous cartoon that basically the father came and he started screaming at his son, and the son is just like daydreaming. And now he comes and he realizes that the father now is looking at him. So he says, okay, so I have to say yes. So he comes and he says yes. And then the father continues screaming, right? And again, he just blanks out. And then after a few minutes, he comes and he says, now I think I should say yes again. So he comes and he says yes. So he said, so you understood? Yes. And he said it perfectly at the time. The child was not there. They turned themselves off. They do not want to listen to everything that you're saying. So therefore for them, it's just like, okay, just get it over with. I'll do whatever you want, but just leave me alone. Let me just do it and that's it. Right? That's what a child is thinking, right, in their mind. Okay? So now, what happens is that we already explained about the screaming, criticism, fighting. So the fighting we just spoke about, whether it's the plane with the pilots, fighting in front of them, right? Criticism or stress. Why? Because obviously if they're going to have stress, children nobody wants to live with stress. It's imagine, you're going to be like that. You can't focus, right? So therefore, what you have to pay attention to is, right, to calm it down. So now,
1 minute, when life is stressful.
take a stress ball. A stress ball. Oh, she said that life is stressful. So what are you supposed to do? Take a stress ball.
Rabbi, especially for the woman, you're not part of this discussion.
So
for the woman is
Woman stress less than man. And the man don't show to the woman. That's the strong thing about the man.
because your stress
And the
is
woman,
not,
she
because your
stress
stress
for
is
a
not
small
real.
thing, he become like Walia, like the world gonna go down. Put yourself in the feet of your husband, you will see what is the stress. And after you will be shocking like this, maybe you cannot breathe about it. I'm telling you. No, it's true. Like woman is saying woman.
Stresses. Nobody's comparing the two.
No, man,
A
she
man
say
is
the
stressed and a
woman.
woman
no,
is
But she just
everyone
say a woman.
stresses for other things, for different things, 100%.
Because
But
women have emotional, mental, physical stress. We
Yeah,
have a
they
lot
born
going
with
on in
a
our
something
head.
psychological not normal. Yeah, I know. I understand that. No.
but listen,
No, it's true. Look, we have the reaction right now.
Where is your wife now?
She's home with the
your daughter,
baby.
yeah.
She's not stressed.
fine. So what happens is
No, you have
yes.
one more thing about the screaming. Is like sometimes you have someone Chinuch, you know what is meaning? Someone like you do like the bad face.
Yeah.
You know Chinuch?
Chinuch.
Chinuch, you know that. That's the worst thing that can happen to your house. More than
100%.
screaming and everything.
100%.
Because he give you the bad attitude.
Very
When
good.
someone like that is negative, give you the negativity to everybody.
I
Very
agree
good.
with you.
That's
If-
worse than
if-
screaming, worse than
If you remember,
everything you want in the
if you
world.
remember, we actually mentioned last week.
I totally
If you remember, what we mentioned last week is that the child came and he went and he told his parents, right, that you always hate me,
The what?
that you hate me.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you remember, we said, where can you find the parent that hates his child? The problem though is that right now the parent, he was all worried because of paying the mortgage payment, and he wasn't even paying attention. So he was worried in his mind, and he wasn't even paying attention. And all of a sudden, the child reads that my father is not happy with me. It has nothing to do with the child. It has nothing to do with anything else. But that's what the father reads, right? And by the way, men read the same way with the women. What does that mean? If you remember when we spoke about Shalom Bayit, we always said women love to complain to their husbands because that's how they connect to their husbands. So we said what happens is that when you come home, right? When you come home, the first thing that you should never do is complain. Why? Because he comes home and he sees the wife that she's got a face of Tisha B'Av. So now obviously you're right. So the child went and he threw all the garbage in the thing, and then they had and then they did all these things. And by the time he comes home, he wants to see a happy wife, happy life, everything happy. And all of a sudden, what does he see? He says, "Oh, what did I do now?" right? And it has nothing to do with him. But again, this is what he reads. So therefore, what we said was, if you remember, is that what you're supposed to do is you receive him with a nice face, you sit him down, give him to eat, because once he eats, now he's calm. And after he eats and he's calm, now what happens?
He's good. Listen,
Yeah. And once he eats and he's calm, now you could come and you could tell him whatever you want, and then he brushes it off, and then everything goes well. Right? Very right? Okay, fine. We're speaking the same language.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, Baruch Hashem. So when we're talking about now, what is the negatives? So we said screaming, criticism, fighting, stress, negativity, all those things. Okay. How do you do the opposite? So the exact opposite. If you want a positive home, so what do you always need in a positive home? Always compliments, right? If it's going to be a respectful tone, you're speaking respect, right? Even to a child. Remember, not because a person is your child, does that mean that you're supposed to disrespect them, right? And the same thing, by the way, you have to teach your children, even to a normal person. What does that mean, right? I had this case recently where somebody came and they didn't show respect, even to the garbage collector. Right, you know what the garbage collector is, right? They call them the sanitary engineers, right? That makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Right, you never knew that? Sanitary engineer, right? What does that mean, right? You come and you're supposed to show them respect. At the end of the day, what does it say in Mishnah Pirkei Avot? You have to be mechabed everybody. It doesn't say to him yes and to him no. Everybody, every single human being. Now why? Because when you're going to show respect to everybody, you yourself are respected, but your children are accustomed to showing respect. So for example, you have a cleaning lady, right? Somebody wants to, no, my cleaning lady, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna take this garbage, I'm gonna throw it on the floor, right? I once saw, I was gonna pick it up behind, and he, after I did it 3 times, and he told me, no, leave it for the cleaner, right? Imagine, we were putting up mezuzot. So what happened was, you take the mezuzah, he took off the peel at the back, right? He threw it on the floor, and okay, fine, I'm gonna put it here. Now, me automatically, I went and I picked it up. I'm saying, there's a house. How are you gonna?
I would have took the mezuzah and left.
Right? Why are you gonna come? Where are you gonna come and you're gonna throw it on the floor? He goes, no, leave it for the cleaner. What the cleaner? The cleaner's not a dog. You know, I mean, it's not a. So you're right. Okay, so she's getting paid to clean your house, but not because of that. You're supposed to come and to disgrace them and show them that they're worth nothing, right? She's a human being, right? Or they are a human being. So you have to show a certain amount of respect, and the children have to get accustomed to that as well. Because once they get accustomed to that, that's when they're going to show the respect also. Right? Because if not, so where we headed? They have to show, and if they respect the cleaner, then they're going to respect you. Right? Because if they can respect that, right, all the more so then hierarchy and everything else. Right?
But we should do that in the synagogue.
100%.
Because a lot of kids don't respect, what's his name?
Roberto.
And I think
Edgardo
every time I stop kids, and it's not my kids, so I don't scream.
You should
at
not.
them or stuff like that. But a lot of kids, they see they have the guy, they do like the cock. I never seen in my life, they do the cock like this or whatever. Yeah, and this is really, I have kids
100%.
If it was my kids, I will, but whatever, man.
You don't want to put it on video.
No,
If it's not, they'll come to your house already
That's what I
tonight.
meant. You know, like, because they see the guys, they don't respect the synagogue.
You're right. No, it's a
true,
problem.
I'm telling
It's a
you.
problem.
I say
They
it
have to
nicely
respect
because
him.
it's not my kid.
By the way, they have to respect him even more so, because
Yes.
if not, it's a chilul Hashem. And the opposite. Many times you will learn from them to respect. I'm going to tell you something. I learned, because it says in the Mishnah Pirkei Avot, right? Mikol melamedai iskalti. Right? Ezu chacham alomem mikol adam. What does that mean? You have to learn from every single human being. Perek Dal Mishnah Aleph. What happens over there? I remember I went and I brought one of my cleaners to the Beit Knesset to clean for Pesach. Why at the time I didn't? We brought a cleaner. She came to the Hechal, and she goes, Rabbi, can I touch here? Can I clean? It was such an awe. So she was a religious Christian, but it was such an awe. I learned Musar from it, because since for us we're always used to the Hechal, or we're used to the thing, so for us it was like, okay, so yeah, it's a we got accustomed to it, and we don't. But for them it was like,
Wow.
You understand? And that's where we go wrong, because we don't realize that the respect that we're supposed to pay to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to the Beit Knesset. So you're right, it's true. Because the children are growing up in the Beit Knesset, it's true, it's good, but we forgot the main concept. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנום אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. What do we say? And this is the Perek of Tehillim that we say from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Rosh Hashanah Rabbah. Why do we say that? We say, Shivti b'vet Hashem. David HaMelech comes and he asks from HaKadosh Baruch Hu one thing. Shivti b'vet Hashem kol yemei chayai. I want to live in the house of Hashem all my life. Which means my entire life I want to be there. But what does he say? Right? Shivti b'vet Hashem kol yemei chayai. Lachazov v'nom Hashem, to see the pleasure of Hashem, to benefit. You come to a Bet Knesset, you enjoy. You hear the tefillah, you hear the divrei Torah, you're enjoying. But ulvaker be'achalo. Translate. What is bikur? To visit. Be'achalo, in his Hechal, in his sanctuary. What is it levaker? Why does it be? I just told you that I wanted to live there. Shifti, and then I just told you ulvaker be'achalo. Says David HaMelech, I want to be in your house every single day, but I still want to feel a visitor. When you have a visitor, you come to the house. You don't feel like a ben bait. You don't put up the feet, your feet on the thing, and I'm at home. No. Right? You're a visitor. So therefore, ulvaker bechalo is David HaMelech is coming and asking Hashem, I want to be there every single day of my life. But even if I'm there every single day, I'm not a ben bait. I'm a visitor, which means I pay my respects. I come in, I act with a certain respect. I have this thing. That is the secret of what it is a Bet Knesset. Now again, we lose. Because we're there all the time and we lose it, and especially children. Why? If you bring children to the Bet Knesset too young, then they never had that respect for the Bet Knesset. And then they grow up with the disrespect. So I see children all the time running in the Bet Knesset. I tell them, you're in a Bet Knesset, you're not in a football stadium. Stop running. Right? They take off their kippah and they start running. I tell them, hey, kippah. Even outside you should have the kippah. But the kippah, you're in the Bet Knesset. You have to have a hat. I don't know if you remember, we had a goy that he was Pablo, if you remember, he used to come and put on a kippah. Why? He was 100% a goy, he wasn't a Jew, but he felt as a respect that I'm in a holy place, I'm going to put myself a kippah, I'm going to, and that's why Babanoteno Rabbi, I don't know if you remember, a few years ago they were at the Kotel, and you had, I think it was 3 people there. It was the Pope, it was the Prime Minister of Israel, which wasn't Bibi at the time, and there was somebody else. And they said the only person that didn't have a kippah was the Jew. You understand? Which means it's sad. Why is it sad? Because you have the Jew that he's supposed to have the kippah didn't have the kippah, right? Again, it wasn't Bibi, right? It was right, and then everyone else did it. And you're like, what's going on here? You remember that picture?
I remember Pablo. He used to listen during Sudash Shlishit. He used to sit there and actually listen to. Yeah,
he used to listen to the shiur, the Dvar Torah. I remember that. Yeah,
but he's doing this because we are Jewish. But if we're going on Navdil to the church, we're not going to dress like them.
Well, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to go into the building.
I know.
You understand?
But they're allowed to come in our show.
Yeah, they're allowed to come into a show. Yes, they're allowed to come into a show.
Going to a mosque.
Right, they are mosque.
I already went to a mosque.
Okay.
I removed my shoes.
100%. But again, that's what you're supposed to do. 100%. You have to pay your respect. But that's exactly what we're saying.
Respect the other people, even they're not Jews?
Yes, always.
Oh, okay.
There was never a mitzvah. Rabbi Yochanan, he came, right? Remember, Rabbi Yochanan, the Gemara Masechet Berachot says, Rabbi Yochanan, what was his praise? He was always Magdim Shalom lechol adam va'afilu goyil bashuk. What does that mean? He always used to say hello to everybody, but it wasn't that he used to answer hello. He would say good morning to every single human being. He was always first, but even a goy in the marketplace. Why? Not because they're a goy, that means that you're not supposed to disrespect them. Right? Now it's true, in America it's a little bit different. I don't know how it is in France, but I remember the way that it was in Gibraltar. Wow. Every person that came in was a good morning. And they were strangers, and it didn't have to really be bonjour, it was something normal, right? Okay, yeah, that's because bisou is to everybody, right? That's minhag hamakom. Yeah, it's always,
no bisou, no bonjour.
Okay, exactly. Okay, so there you have it, the bisou and bonjour. Okay, fine.
No, but in a church you cannot pay respect to.
You're not allowed to go in. Yeah, that's only one. No, that's why she said the mosque. That's why I said the mosque. The mosque is fine. The mosque was fine. Yeah, 100%. Okay, fine. So, if you guys realize, in the olden days, right, people were much more emotionally healthy. Why is it that nowadays we have so many problems of emotional health? Right? Once upon a time, you think about it. How many people needed psychologists? Psychologists didn't even exist. understand? They would go to nowadays, look how many you have this, and you have a psychologist, and you have coaches, and you have this, and you've got millions of these things. They didn't even exist. Now, why? What was the difference between them? So the reason why is because in the olden days, they were much more emotionally healthy. They were happy. This is one of the reasons. Now, why? I'm going to explain very simple. When you wanted to learn with somebody, or you wanted to speak to a friend, there was no such thing as a phone. So you had to go, and you had to knock on the door. Now, usually when you're going to go out, so you have to prepare yourself. You go, you get ready, you go over there, right? You're not in your bed and you're calling somebody, you understand? So therefore, you have to get ready, you go, you have to speak to them, even if you didn't, you look at them in the eye, and you're speaking. Nowadays, what happens is that we lost all of that. Why do we lose all of that? Because at the end of the day, right, it's like, for example, they give the mashal, right, that there was a woman that she came into her house and she wanted to knock a nail in the wall in order to put up a picture, right? So what happened was she comes, she takes a nail, boom, the entire wall collapses, right? So now people think it's because it was a woman that was doing a man's job. No, but what happened is that the termites came and they ate everything from behind. So what was the only thing that was holding up the wall? The wallpaper. The second that she came and she knocked the wallpaper, everything just collapsed. Nowadays, you have a lot of children and teenagers that's what they are. They're just the wallpaper is holding them, but there's nothing behind. There's no human being behind there. Now, why? Because at the end of the day, what we started getting them used to is that we started getting them used to not communicating and not having these skills of becoming a human being. So, for example, right, eye contact. Right? How many times do you see people? They come, they start speaking to you, they're not even looking at you, right? They're coming and you're like, where are you? Are you speaking to me or are you speaking to somebody else? Right? The Midrash actually says that when you speak to someone, they said, Vayikra Moshe, he has to call him. What does that mean? I say your name. So I'm not going to come to grab your attention. So I come, I say your name. I said your name, right? Which is something, by the way, which is a connection in between neshamot. Because when you call somebody's name, right, you're connecting to their neshama. That's why it's so important that when you're giving the name and everything, right, at the Brit Milah, so you call out the name. You called out the name, and now you come and you start presenting. You start speaking. So what do you need? Eye contact. Another thing is that they feel that you want to hear them. Right? What does that mean, they feel that you want to hear them? The majority of the times, right, if they don't feel valued, so what happens is that they lose and they don't get any self-confidence. Why? Because they feel in themselves that they're a nobody. So you have to come and you have to validate them. So how are you going to validate them? Nowadays, because of the communications that we have, there's no communications. I remember once I was speaking to a person and I told them, by the way, how do you guys speak? Everything's a text. I said, that's the worst mistake that you can make in your life. How many times does it happen that you write a text and you asked it as a question, but you forgot to write the question mark? And they read it as a statement instead of a question, or they read it as a question instead of a statement. Or many times they understood it completely different. And you didn't even have that kavanah. And all of a sudden you made the fight even worse. And then they're fighting, and you're like, Ribono Shel Olam, right? You're husband and wife, you can't speak, right? Everything is being done through a text because you're both upset at each other, right? But Rogas, that's it, you're all upset, so now you speak to each other. Sit down on the table, right? Look at each other in the eye and start speaking and start working it out. So what happens though is that once we started losing that, there's nothing there. So all of a sudden you could have people that they're living together and they don't even look at each other. Right? They're always busy, whether it's going to be on their work, whether on other things, on their phones, on everything else, and they're not even looking. So you're right. If you do remember when we were speaking about Shalom Bayit, we did speak about the difference between men and women. That women are multitask, and men are very, very focused in one thing. And therefore, for sure, right, if you're going to come to your husband, you're going to tell him something, and if he didn't actually acknowledge you, it means that he didn't listen to you, right? And he didn't even pay attention. Not because he doesn't want, it's just because he's so inside, he's not there. And the women are able to come and do 4 different things at one time, right? So they're not going to burn the cake and take care of the kids and be on the phone and speak to I don't know what. Why? Because they're much able to do that. That's what they have, right? Because they're not as focused in what they're doing. What happens now is as follows though. So what we have to do is that we have to pay attention, right? That the way to do it is every time that your child wants to tell you something, you have to think to yourself, they're going to tell me a chidush. They're going to tell me something new, a novelty, something that I didn't know. Now, usually that's very, very difficult. And this, by the way, is a tip even for Shalom Bayit, because when was the last time your wife told you something you didn't know, right? But what happens is you pretend and you say to yourself, you know what? I'm gonna just listen. My job is to listen, not to say anything. And you're going to gain much more by listening than actually saying something. Majority of the times what we do is that we want to come and right away we want to say something, right? So right away somebody tells me, I want to answer. Before answering, first let them talk. Why? I want to hear what they have to say. Many times it's something completely different, but even more than that, if you want to build their self-confidence, if you want to build their thinking process and to build who they are, repeat what they're saying. Let them answer the question. So for example, a child is going to come in and he's going to say, Papi, why on the street are they making all these poles now made out of cement? And why is it so tall? Why is it so high? Or why is the light going to be yellow instead of white, or white instead of yellow, and everything, or blue now? Each time they're coming up with different things. So what happens is, instead of coming and showing your chokhmah, that you know everything, right? What you do is ask them, what do you think? Why do you think it's going to be so high, the light? Instead of having the light lower down. So then they're going to say, okay, it's true. If the light is lower down, obviously what's going to happen? It's not going to illuminate that much. The higher that you put it, the more that it's going to illuminate, right? And you continue going, okay, and you continue asking them and saying, so this is what you're saying. And when you're doing that, what you're doing is you're showing that what they're saying is something important. You're listening to them, and they feel that they're being listened to. One of the people that they went to, one of the big rabbis, right? That they were not religious. They ran away from their home, and the rabbi had to bring him back. And finally, so he went and he said, okay, fine. He was able to get him back on. And when he got him a little bit back onto the religion, he went and he asked him, by the way, right? One of the other rabbis came and he asked, what brought you back? He said, very, very simple. He said, I had somebody that was listening to me. Why? The majority of the parents nowadays were not listening to our children. Our children are talking and we're not listening. And many times what we have to just understand is we have to read in between the lines. Now on that, by the way, the women have a much greater skill. That's why Binah Yeterah was given to a woman. Women have a much greater understanding. So for example, if the child comes and he starts, screaming or I don't know what, so what does the man say? He starts screaming at her, what are you screaming, what are you doing? And all of a sudden she's saying, okay, who did you fight with? Why? And all of a sudden he starts crying. Why? He had a fight in school and then something happened. So what happened? They have that intuition, that special sense, right? That they're able to realize that really, bemet, there's another reason there. It's not just stam that they're doing it. It's not just, there's something hidden there's a reason that's triggering what's going on. So obviously that's what's going to happen, right? That we have to actually pay attention to that. Now, another thing is going to be to do with, we already spoke about the respect. Power struggles. We already mentioned at the beginning of the shiur that obviously we do not want fighting. Fighting is not only just between the parents. Fighting is between the children. What does that mean? The worst thing that we're going to have is that don't pick fights. So there was a study that they did on 1,000 families that it had to do with healthy eating.
Sorry, healthy what?
Healthy eating. Eating, right? Healthy foods, right? That means, for example, no chips, no potato chips, no ketchup, no this, no that, like sodas, all these things. So what happened is that the rabbis went and they made a study of 1,000 families, 240 families. There was non-stop fighting because all they were doing was fighting, that they wanted that the children should be healthy. Now again, we're not going to say that you don't need that your children should be healthy. Your children should be healthy 100%, and that you should have healthy foods and everything like that. But if you're going to go and always fight with your kids, the same thing, right? The parents fighting with the kids. Again, parents with the kids. Parents fighting with the kids. So then, how do you want your house to be a healthy home and to be a positive environment if all the time you're fighting? So just don't. And by the way, you should know this is the exact same thing with Shalom Bayit. If you know that a certain topic always causes fights, so don't always cause the fight. Don't always talk about the topic. And if it is that you're going to choose that topic, you have to make sure that you're both very, very calm, that you're both, well rested, you've eaten, you're both, and when you're in a very calm atmosphere, then you could talk about that topic. Because if not, it's just going to be, milchemet olam, the world war. So therefore, you have to be careful. So again, it's the exact same thing. But what we want is that our houses should be very, very positive atmosphere and not a negative atmosphere, right? For example, we see this also in a classroom. How do you see it in a classroom? Imagine right now you're in a shiur, and you're all here, and I come to one person, right, and I start screaming at them. How does everybody feel? Uncomfortable. But now 1 second, was I screaming at you? I wasn't screaming at you. You know who I'm screaming to. Everyone sees I'm screaming, I'm pointing, I'm looking at the guy. There's no doubts. I'm pinpointing. Everybody knows that I'm coming and I'm screaming at Mr. A. But what happens? You feel uncomfortable. The exact same thing happens, right? Whether it's going to be in a classroom or in your house. Because at the end of the day, even if you're going to be screaming at one child, you're making the home an unpleasant home for everybody else. So therefore, the positive atmosphere in the entire house is going to be dependent upon us. That we are the ones that we have to instill it, right?
And this is the best scenario, what you're saying, or this is the Torah? Because it's impossible to not scream. Like it's just human to not. Not because we are bad or we're not a good person. It's just we are limited. We are human.
You're right. There will always be downfalls, but you have to know what it's supposed to be the majority of the time. Meaning, if you're going to go into a house and the majority of the time it's screaming, so you already know that there's something that is not functional. Imagine right now you come to the Bet Knesset and you're going to see me screaming at everybody there. What are you going to think? It's either the rabbi is a little bit mejnoon, or what? Or the people are a little bit, I don't know what. But somebody, it's not, meaning it's one or the other, but you're not going to say this is normal. Now you're going to say, but why? So imagine the rabbi is screaming. You're going to say, listen, it's normal. It's not normal. Meaning,
this is the like I'm doing the homework with the oldest. The babies. I'm busy with someone else. Or I'm with the babies. The oldest gonna fight each other. There is always environment screaming.
no, but even with that environment, they will learn to do it in a screaming. It's not going to be screaming. They will learn to do it even quietly. And again, that's the house that you will get used to.
So
But it's a work. It's a work.
Fight quietly.
Yeah, again, not quietly without just looking at each other, but a kavanah. The kavanah. By the way, the majority, right? The majority of the time, the girls is fighting with screaming or pulling hair.
My husband is coming home back the time when I'm screaming. And I said to my husband, I'm going to put 3 locks because I need to know that he's coming.
In order that
Open the door, I need to be prepared.
No, you know what we have to do? We're going to put the baby monitor, and he's always going to be on the baby monitor.
No, because
So therefore, he's always there.
Always in a not a good time.
Okay? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Like
HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
every man will come in the wrong time.
What?
No,
He said
we come
every
in the
man.
wrong time. We come when like they take the shower or they eating or you screaming,
What we're trying to say is as follows, right?
No, it's true. We have a bad time and we come like 7.
We're going to,
I'm not
right?
taking care of them. I'm with the baby. And
Right.
they fight each other.
I'll give you an example. For example, to do with the screaming, we have to work upon ourselves to try to limit, the screaming. But I'll give you another example. This happened with Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, right? Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach came to him, right, an Ashkenazi person that he was always learning, and he comes and he tells Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, it's not fair. So he says, okay, what's not fair? So he says, I've got a neighbor. He's Sfaradi. He's a balabait. He says he hardly even knows how to open up a tilim. Right? So obviously he wasn't of the old Moroccans and Tunisians. So it had to be whatever. Okay, fine. Sfaradi hardly knows how to open up a tilim. But every single one of his children, he's got 6 children, every child is a chacham, tamid chacham, person yirat shamayim, everything. And he says, but if you come to my house, right, he's got the same amount of children, and each one is half, I don't know what. So he says, it's not fair. What's going on? So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said, I don't understand what's not fair. It's logic. He said, what's logic? He said, it's very, very simple. He says, the Sfaradi, right, what does he do all day? Since he's not learned, every single day, what does he do? He respects. So he comes and he says, look, this rabbi, the Torah, the Kavod. You know, you talk about all the Gdolim. Look, you know, you just turn around. You have all the rabbis, the tzaddikim. So what happens? He always has positivity, right? He says, when in your home, what is happening? About this rabbi trying to do the other thing to the other rabbi, and about this one doing the other thing to the other one, and the other one doing to the other one, and then so it's only negative. So he says, so what happens? The child wants to run away from that. So since he wants to run away from that, you always have to be positive. So he says that every single person, they always put others down. So for example, we're going to come and we're going to speak about, right, the Tunisians. And then the Tunisians are going to speak about the Moroccans. And the Moroccans about the Algerians. And the Algerians about the Chalabim. And the Chalabim about the Lubavitch. And the Lubavitch about the Hasidim. And the other Hasidim about the each continues going around, right, about the modern Orthodox. And this, and everyone's... He says, but instead of coming when we're busy putting them down, what we're doing is we're creating a negative environment in the home. And therefore, what we have to always try to do is everything is always going to be positive, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. Okay? The Me'oivai techakemeni, right? This is something incredible that I just heard in the shiur, which I think is something incredible. Me'oivai techakemeni means that we have to learn from our enemies in order to become smart. Right? And this, by the way, happens in everything, right? How does, for example, right, the IDF, what is the first thing that they have to do? They have to do an entire probe to find out where did they go wrong with Hamas that they did such a October 7th. And then that's how they learn how not to, that it's going to become a reoccurrence. What happens is like this. How do you make a casino? Yeah, a casino. Yeah? Anybody's been to a casino?
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
fine. But okay. So how do you build a casino? Right? So imagine right now, you're gonna be the architect, you're making a casino. So how do you do it?
No clocks.
Very good. No clocks. No clocks. No time. There's no clocks. No clocks. No clocks. No windows. These guys are incredible. You guys are yeah.
Free drinks.
Free drinks. Yeah.
Woman. You need to put...
No, he was the first one. Romain was the second one. They're both partners. Yeah?
They put also air to make you awake.
The third one, incredible. They put in the air vents so much oxygen to keep you awake, because if not, you would fall asleep. Look at the
do that in my store.
Excited.
To be excited than the normal. You know what that is? That means what they're doing is that they're doing all these things. Why? Right? Because they want you to continue going, not to realize that the world is going on, right? Not to... Huh? The air conditioning they put. They put it in the air. So that way the air is coming out extra oxygen in order that when you're breathing it in... Yeah, you're not tired. They do it purposely. So the guy could be there stuck to lose... Huh?
He
wants to do a field trip next morning. Yeah, fine. So what happens is what happens, right? Look what's going on. What's going on is that they're doing that they don't want any time. They don't want to show you that there's a value of time. So therefore there's no windows. You can't even see what's going on outside of the world. You're stuck inside, right? There's no clocks. So you don't have a watch. There's nothing there. Everything's there. And what happens? They get you excited in order to come to do that. So why is that so important? Because really what we're doing is look at the wickedness that they're doing, but they need the positive vibes. And that's what we need in our home. We need that extra oxygen, that it's not that they're tired from being there. They want that it should always be a positive atmosphere. They don't want negative, which means if you go into a home and you come and say, it's all negative vibes. What does that mean? I felt the tension at the table. I felt that, so that's not good. Because that means that it's not a healthy environment. You want to make a home a healthy environment. That's all that you want to do.
You know also what they do in casino?
What else?
In the poker room, they give you massage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
They give you also woman.
So, okay, well, let's, fine. Yeah,
C'est vous
fine.
qui avez commencé les pros là, les deux.
Yeah, he comes and he says not like this, right? You remember that we spoke about, right? You remember about the dancing bears? Yeah, the dancing bears. No, you don't remember the dancing bears?
I want
He
that.
said the Pavlovian condition, exactly. What happened was, if you remember, what happened was that the Pavlovian conditioned association. You remember that we spoke about the bears. That what happened was that they used to take the bears when they're very, very young, and then what they used to do was that they used to cut off the bottom parts of the legs, and they used to the foot, right? And then they used to come and they used to put them on hot coals, and then they used to put music. So with the music, they started dancing, but not because of the music, because it was burning their feet. And then what happened was is that later on, they're not going to show that to everybody. So what happens is that they do that and they get them accustomed to it. And then what happens is all of a sudden, right, when there's a show, they come and they turn on the music. And when they come and they turn on the music, all of a sudden the same music, they come and they start dancing. So people think, wow, you just made dancing bears. But it's because in their mind, it associated, right, the pain with that. That actually happened to a person where his daughter went to the dentist and they were, how do you call this? They were drilling, right? And what happened was, all of a sudden, right, the father comes and they're walking by a certain place, and all of a sudden they heard the drill. And all of a sudden the daughter came and she started screaming and she started doing like this. And the father's like, what's going on? He's looking around, nothing's happening. She's like, and he didn't realize that it was the same association, meaning that the child comes, and when they hear that, it becomes a trauma. Right? And that trauma, by the way, happens all the time. It could start as firecrackers, and we're Chas v'Shalom, after Sydney, what happened there in Australia, right? When they come in, even if they're going to hear something that sounds like a firecracker, for them it becomes a trauma, because for them, they jump under the bed. They don't, why? Because the association of what they associate what's happened. So there was actually something incredible that happened, and that means he did a good job, right? There was a boy that was becoming bar mitzvah, and they were driving by a store, and he comes and he tells his father, he says, by the way, Papa, do you remember this store? He says, yeah, it's a candy store. He says, no, but do you remember what we used to get here? He says, no. He says, every single time we used to buy candies, and I always used to like a certain type of a candy with, like whatever it was, one of these sticks or whatever. And what happened was, every time I learned with you, I used to take a candy. Now, the father completely forgot about it. But what does that mean? That means that the child had a good association, that he felt that it was kef, it was something good, that he enjoyed learning with his father, that he had a special type of a candy. So for him, that was a good association. That's exactly what we were talking about, that you always want to have a connection, that they want to learn. They want to say, I'm enjoying, I love to learn with my father. Not that I'm forced to learn with them, right? But I love learning with them. Because once I love learning with them, that's what's going to continue always getting them to learn. Because if not, then they're not going to want to learn, right, whatsoever. Schools are incubators. What does that mean? There's a b'diavad, post factum, meaning that there's nothing what to do. And then there's the lechatchila. Schools, if you remember, we said, came from Yavan, right? What does that mean, Yavan? It came from the Greeks. The Greeks they started universities, philosophies, right? Why? To universify, to bring everything together. So what happens was, school, the concept of a school was something that came from them. And it's an incubator. Why is it an incubator? Because it's not the best of what you're supposed to do. The only thing is, this is what we have. So once we have it, we just have to bite our tongues and continue going with it. But we have to remember, though, that in the school, that's not going to educate our children. Our education starts at home. And we are the ones that we have to instill and put in our children, right, the proper education that we have. However, though, what's going to happen is as follows. What happens is that we're going to come and we're going to say, there's a midrash that says at the end of days, right? The dat is going to be mishubeshet. What does that mean? The mind, the emotional status of people are going to be crazy. And that's what's happening nowadays. Nowadays we come and we see, right, that as I mentioned before, at all the amount of people that they're medicated, whether it's going to be for all these, anxiety or for all these other things, it's just, the statistics are just crazy. So what we have to actually pay attention to is that when we are speaking about who we are, we have to understand what's happening. So before we get to who we are, I'm going to say something incredible, which is as follows. Imagine right now you come and you tell your child that they're not allowed to speak in shul. And at the same time that you're coming and you're giving him whatever it is, you're turning to your friend and you're speaking. What does the child think about you?
Hypocrite.
You're a hypocrite, correct? Everyone agrees?
Yes.
Yeah? Fine. If it was only a hypocrite, it would have been good. Halvai that it's actually a hypocrite. Why? Because that means that my child is, or for example, you're going to come, you're going to tell your child, don't speak that way, or don't use curse words, or don't speak Lashon Hara, and all of a sudden you do it. So you would say, okay, fine, you're a hypocrite, right? That's fine. Why? I did something wrong. My child, right? I tell them not to do it, but they know that I did something wrong. There's something which is called splitting. Splitting means is that it's not only hypocrites, right? They feel that their parents are not wrong because that's the nature of a child.
What?
They don't realize that they don't realize that their parents are wrong. So what they do is that they start associating that what their parents are saying is a declaration. Declaration means you say one thing, but you're doing something completely different. So for example, we're gonna tell everybody we don't speak Lashon Hara. But what do we do all the time? We speak Lashon Hara. We're not hypocrites. That's the way that we live our lives. Meaning that we actually did something worse than hypocrisy. Because a hypocrite just means I'm doing A, and then I'm saying to do A, and then I'm doing B. But they know that I'm wrong. Here, no. They think that I'm right. So therefore, what they learn from us is that we're going to actually start doing that. So, for example, we could say whatever we want, but really, be'emet, we're going to do the exact opposite. And this is actually worse than hypocrisy. Right? There was a girl that she was in a Bet Yaakov, and her father was a big rabbi. So this rabbi comes and he's speaking to her, and she says, yeah, but right, they had a rule in the school, right, and that there's no phones. But my father had 89 reasons why it doesn't apply to me. Right? 89 reasons why it didn't apply to me. So therefore I could do it. So what happened is that this rabbi comes, and he tells the father, he says, listen, I want to ask you a question. Every single time right now that you're going to have a rule in the school, who's the one that's going to explain to your daughter that this rule does apply to her and this rule doesn't apply to her? You're not there. So what does it help to come and tell me that it doesn't apply? Now, why is this so important? Because this happens every single day of our lives. The schools have a certain rule. Let's say it could be that no internet or whatever it is for children, no unfiltered internet, it could be no phones, it could be whatever the case is. If we're going to come and justify it, and we're going to say, no, but you know what, it doesn't apply to us. For us, it's okay for you. Don't worry about it. So what do we just do? We just showed them this, which is worse than hypocrisy, which means that we showed them that we could say outside A, but really be'emet, inside we're B. Now, why is this the worst tragedy in the world? Because this world, what we're living in now, is everything about opinion of what other people think of us, not who we are. Meaning, right, we started becoming what people think of us. As long as they think positive of me, I won, I'm good. Even if I myself, I have no idea who I am. So we lost our identity, right? What is ani? Ani, my, I, is an, right? Which is basically, where am I going? An ani. He says, where am I headed? Why is that where am I headed? Because you have to actually realize that where are we supposed to be heading? Why is that? So I'm going to tell it to you in a nutshell in 5 minutes. And with this we're going to finish, which is, I think, very, very important, which is as follows. Am I a Rasha or am I a Tzaddik?
Tzaddik.
Rasha.
You cannot
I didn't pay you before you.
You cannot see you are a Rasha.
Yeah.
Okay, so now 1 second.
So
listen carefully. What happens is that a rabbi came and he told a woman, right? He went and he told her, are you good or are you bad?
You cannot say
Right?
that.
So now if you're going to ask a woman, right, do you love your child or not? The automatic answer is yes. But if you're going to say, are you good or you're bad? So you're going to say, listen, we all have black things, we all have stains, we all have averot, right? Well, yeah, but I try my best.
Perfect,
Do you know what happens is as follows? You want your child to be positive. How are you going to be positive if we're negative about ourselves? If we always shoot ourselves in the legs and we always say we're failures or that we didn't do good. So what do we have to do? We have to think of ourselves positives. It says in the pasuk, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he comes and he's borei or, right? Sorry, he's yotzer or uborei ra. The pasuk in Yeshaya Perek Mem Hey actually says ra. Now the majority of people say HaKadosh Baruch Hu created bad, but the Radak and everybody there says, you know what ra means? Ra means a fraction. For example, re'im or re'ah, tiru'ah, a broken call, a broken sound. What is tiru'ah? Ra is a fraction of something, which means if I take this and I divide it, it becomes a fraction. Ra does not mean bad. There's nothing bad coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nothing. Even our averot are made in order that when we do teshuvah, we become closer to Hashem. And that's our entire purpose in this world, which means everything that a person does is in order to enhance them, to bring them closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I think it's actually incredible when we just realize that, because then if we're going to think positive about ourselves and we go to sleep. So imagine last night, right? We stayed up until whatever it is, 1:30 or whatever it is. We were very, very busy. And what happens is that the next day, so you didn't come to Shachrit, or you came and you were half asleep. And then, so what happens? The next time you're shooting yourself in the leg, and you're saying, but what do? Channel it for the positive. And you say to yourself the next night, I know I'm much better than that. So why am I going to go to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is? You know what? I'm going to go to sleep earlier. Why? Because I'm actually much better than that. I could do much better than that. Channel that negativity towards the positive. And then what happens? And then what you say, since I'm much better, I could do better. What happens? All of a sudden what happens is that the next morning I become a better person. And that's Rabbi Munatecha. You remember we said the first thing that we taught in the first yud was Modani lefanecha melcha v'kayam shechazat bi nishvati b'chemla. Rabbi Munatecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes in you. In every single Jew, he believes in you. So when he gave you your neshama back in the morning, he believes that you're able to do everything. That's why he gave you a second chance. You're able to get up, you're able to overcome yourself and to become a better person. When you know who you are, then you could be able to come and give that over to your child. Your child needs an identity, but that identity needs to be positive. That positive has to be with everything around you. Everything should always be positive. If you want that your child should be emotionally healthy, it means that they have to be brought up in a healthy environment. Healthy environment, what do we say? No screamings, fightings. Again, there's always slip-ups. We're human beings. We also do avirot, 100%. But we know where we're headed. Where's our mission? So we have to remember where we're going, right? No screaming, fighting, negativity, stress, everything else. That we always want a positive atmosphere in order for them to grow healthy. B'ezrat Hashem, right? By following that, B'ezrat Hashem will be able to get there. B'ezrat Hashem.
Zach.